Right, anyway, enough about biscuit theory. Right.
Hi, Liam.
Don't do that to me. Hey guys, welcome to MOAR. This is a part 2 video.
Part 2.
He actually agreed to do another one. I told you it would be a series. He promised it in the last one.
I've got a cup of tea now.
Yeah, I have
so
too.
Let's keep going.
So as long as we feed him tea, he will keep going for as long as we want to record.
Hell yeah.
We'll probably only get through a couple today. We've done one already. We'll probably do the second one. We need to do the battle report for your channel.
Yeah.
I'm very aware that I came to film for you, and we're doing it all for me right now.
I do a lot of battle reports. I don't get to sit down and talk hobby very much.
And it's amazing that you don't do that very much, because your mind with regards to this hobby is wonderful.
Is it?
In my opinion. So, and I'm sure everybody else will agree. So we've done video 1 already. Head on over to MOAR and check it out and watch it and see what you think and give us your feedback.
I want to see a bunch of more questions. If there's stuff out there that people want answered, I hope this video is really popular and successful, because I want to do another one with the questions that the people send through.
To be perfectly honest with you, if it's not popular, I'll still keep doing them anyway, because I like chatting rubbish for hours about the hobby.
Okay.
Equally, as well as sending us your questions on the other video or on this video, feel free, when you've heard about a topic we've discussed, to put your own comments on there and what you think, just because it's interesting. And it might even be that you put a comment on there that you to do with something we've already spoke about that's not a question, and we think it's so interesting we might discuss it in the future anyway.
Yeah.
That's the way it happens.
One question will be a 10-15 minute diatribe.
We do tend to snowball. You'll notice, if you've seen it in the video, you already know this. If you haven't seen it in the video, then you'll learn quite quickly. We'll start with a question. There'll probably be about 2 or 3 minutes of answering that question, then we'll just disappear off on a tangent.
Have we actually answered a question yet?
I don't know. We'll say yes, because it will send people over to the other video. I want to hear what they think.
Yes, we definitely answered some questions.
But even if we don't answer the question directly, the discussion's actually quite interesting. And there's some interesting stuff, interesting theories that come out of your mouth about the future of the hobby.
Dreams.
And maybe dreams, but I actually can see where you're going with it, and when you say it, you sit there and you think, that makes sense, that could actually happen. There's some interesting discussion about the rules and some of the rules in the hobby as it exists currently over on the other video. We did a lot more about, I would argue we did less about rules and more about how units interact with the game, how the narratives interact with the game. See how I called it narrative then?
Yeah.
I just got told off downstairs because I called it fluff and not narrative.
What it is, you said to me something along the lines of, I really appreciate the fact that you like fluff so much, fluff junkie, blah, 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 blah. And I said I was so much of a fluff junkie, it annoys me when people call it fluff. I prefer to call it narrative.
I got told off.
Only a little bit. It's just every now and then I hear the word fluff, fluff. It's like,
And I'm so excited to be here. It was literally like smacking a pupper in the nose of a newspaper. And that was it, done. So I'm going to have to behave.
Let's go on. We'll just keep, for 10 minutes we'll talk about what's on the other video. Let's get to ask some questions on this video.
So this will now, I was going to use a word then that doesn't even exist. I was literally going to make it up on the spot.
Go on,
we're going to cut this here, and then we're going to move over to the next stage, and that'll be a question, and then there'll be another question, and we'll do 3 or 4 questions hopefully. That'll give us another decent length video. You'll all love it, you'll all come back for more, and then we'll have a whole series, and we'll be like that forever. So last time, the first question you picked from random, and then it kind of flowed from there. And because of how it flowed, I kind of want to hand pick these questions. They're important. So talking directly about the game itself, not codex specific, not army specific, but 8th edition is a core rule set. One of my current problems with the game has led me to this question. It is simply, do you think that first turn is that crucial now in this game?
No and yes.
Great, okay, so that's that one done. What do you mean no and yes? You can't have no and yes.
For tournament players, yes, because first turn has always been crucial for tournament players. That's been like that forever. Yeah. So yes it was, and yes it is.
Right.
But for non-tournament players, which I don't know what the percentage would be, but it must be 90-95% of players out there, no. In fact, some narrative players and beer and pretzels players will build lists hoping that they go second. But
see, that's interesting that you said that, because I think differently at the moment, and I think no matter what...
Well, then you're wrong.
No,
go on, I want to hear.
So, just from my experience so far, is that at the second turn really kicks me in the nuts at the moment.
Yeah.
And I noticed that even when I'm not playing power gaming lists, cheese-based lists, whatever you want to call them, I have no problem with any of those lists. I never have. I will literally play any list you put in front of me, and if I get tables, oh well, I've got tables. As long as I have fun, I don't care. However, I have noticed that whatever type of list I play, and I am normally, with my Chaos specifically, I'm normally a melee-focused type player. I then find that I take, because if I haven't got first turn, I take so much damage that it neuters the army nowadays.
You're playing the game wrong. You're not playing with enough line of sight block and terrain in the middle of the table. I've built lists to go second in 8th edition and want to go second.
That's really interesting.
Because I want the enemy
viewpoint.
assault based army closer to me so I can hurt them, or maneuver based lists so I can maneuver around. And there's been a couple on the channel, not very many, but there has been 10 to 20% of my lists, let's say 50% of my lists are built with going second in mind.
See, I would argue, I would argue that I'm not telling you you're wrong, clearly, but I would argue that my standpoint is probably slightly more common right now.
If your opponent can deploy so that his army can see more than 50% of your army from the deployment zone to your deployment zone, you're playing the game wrong. In other editions, it specifically said that you should. So you set up a board, and half of your terrain should be non-line of sight blocking, half your terrain should be line of sight blocking. There should be some 2 or 3 significant places in the middle of the table.
Yeah, agreed.
ITC do it that way, Nova do it that way, a lot of people do it that way, and I certainly do it that way. Well, I try to. There's been some cases where not, but.
Yeah, but normally because it fits the narrative.
I build the boards that make narrative sense.
So the only reason why I was...
But I've seen some of the games on that channel that you play on with that guy that you won't mention, that they've got terrain around the outside and your terrain in the middle is pipes or a thing. There isn't a big
Do you know why
hill
he does this?
Because he plays shooty lists and wants to kill.
Nope, there's actually not the reason why he does it, surprisingly, because he does like to win all the time. The reason why he does it is he's got a great big video camera that he sits on a massive great big stand, and if you have line of sight blocking terrain all the way through the middle, he can't see half the board.
So he's doing it for the camera.
He literally sets his board up for the camera, which I understand because people want to see it. But it can ruin the game. I say ruin the game. Most of the games you watch on his channel are actually pretty good. It doesn't really ruin the game, but I see exactly what you're saying. The only reason why I suggest that first turn is still a problem is because if you look at the rule that's coming with chapter approved later this year, that now states that it doesn't matter whether you've got the least number of units or the most number of units, apart from the fact that you add 1 if you've got the least number. That's the only change. So it's still going to be random. So you can have the least number, you can aim to go first and still not go first anymore.
But they're throwing a bone to tournament players, but first turn's always been a problem.
Yeah.
They could have done that rule where you roll off to see who goes first and whoever deployed first goes, adds 1. That could have existed in 5th edition or 6th or whatever. It's not necessarily an 8th edition rule, it just has turned up in this edition.
Yeah, okay.
But I would suggest to you the next 2 or 3 games, I'd say 3, here's homework for you. Next 3 games you play, put some very big and more than 1 large line of sight blocking terrain in the middle of the table and choose to go second. And see if that changes the game for you.
I have to own it first before I can do that.
Oh, own what?
Scenery. I have a decent amount of scenery. Do I have that much big line of sight blocking? Probably not. Oh. What I also have is 2 tiny humans and a wife that sap all of my money.
Do they?
All of it.
How much are children worth on the internet these days? You can sell them, can't you?
No,
you can buy anything on the internet.
Yeah, you can sell them. Legally, probably not. You can sell them. I mean, you've got. I've seen your nice newish house. There's no reason why I couldn't drop one here and you could have it for a bit.
Yeah, I haven't got a dungeon yet, or a cellar or something. Don't drop them. No, not children.
Yeah.
I've got a really fat cat, and that takes up all of my time. We were on a subject.
Yeah, first turns, not cats and children. But
so first turn is a problem if you play tournaments, and if you don't play tournaments, it isn't from my point of view. But from your point of view, it always is a problem. But I would say that you're not playing with the right amount of terrain.
No, it's interesting to hear that as a standpoint and a viewpoint actually. And I always thought first turn was a problem when it dropped. And I've spoken to Darren a few times, and he's quite narky about not getting first turn, and it does seem to hurt, especially when you play your Grey Knight type lists. You drop pod, not your drop pod, your deep striking alpha strike type lists. I think that really hurts. Having said that, I suppose if you didn't have first turn against those lists, or you did have first turn against those lists, then you've got nothing to shoot at anyway because they're not on the board. So I suppose it's a 6 and 2-3 type argument. But considering what we spoke about in the last video, where you can't put anything in reserves at the moment, for example with your Admech, because you've got nothing that strikes. Yeah.
So in those cases, an Alpha Strike army that appears in your board edge, in your deployment zone in turn 1,
and you can't reserve anything.
First turn is. But you're saying it's a first turn problem. I wouldn't say it's a first turn problem. I'd say it's a reserve problem.
Yeah, it's interesting. And thinking about what you just said, I probably would agree with you now.
It's not.
And that's why the question. That's why the question is first turn that crucial?
In tournaments, yes, but it always has been in narrative games, open games, and games. No.
Okay.
If you've got a certain type of list that is either an Alpha Strike list, a Grey Knights really like going first. Tau Deep Striking Suits really like going first. So for certain type of lists, yes. In tournaments, yes. That's different from a first turn problem or a reserve problem. First turn is crucial for certain lists, but again, it always has been the case.
Yeah, I think some people have actually built their lists specifically to make use of having first turn. And as we've just mentioned, chapter approved will change that, and I'm hoping that will balance out a little bit. For example, there's a lot of people you see with Magnus who will move him 16 inches on turn 1. Yeah, he will then cast Warp Time clearly, because that's what everybody does, and jump him another 6, and he's making a first turn combat. Yeah. Suddenly if you lose that first turn, people can work around that. Although he's got a 32 inch plus 2d6 threat range, you can work around that if you're clever enough, I think. Yeah. So I think that will then negate the point of first turn, because you can aim to get the +1, but it doesn't always make a difference. And interestingly actually, a game I played recently, I took my Cult Mech against a Primaris list. I don't know if you've watched it. Yep. And this is another thing, this is a slight aside. We used to re-roll, command point re-roll. So you rolled off, don't you? Because we used the chapter approved rules in that video. Yeah. We rolled off and I had +1. And I beat him. Yeah. We both rolled a 2 and I beat him. Yeah. He used a command point to re-roll his dice. Yeah. Do you think that's fine?
No, you're not allowed to use command point to re-roll the first turn roll.
Why not?
That's what they said in the thing. The chapter approved rule that they've released. You can't use command point.
Oh, I didn't see that part of it.
It's a flat roll which you get +1 if you deployed first. That's it. No,
so Mike cheated. And that's ultimately what I won't give the result away because you want to watch it.
You've touched on something that we touched on in the other video, which is I think there's a reserve problem in 8th edition. If you've got Magnus who's coming up the board with the 36 inch threat range and all this pink horrors and and you built your army to do that, then what would a non-Alpha Strike army typically do in older editions? They would hold stuff back and hold stuff on the flanks. So I think it isn't necessarily it is a first turn problem with the rules as they stand. But fixing the reserve mechanic or having some modifications to the reserve mechanic would help nullify that issue.
Because then you can watch him play his cards.
And you've left scouts on the table.
And once you know, once he showed his hand, you can then, I suppose, try and counter it. Yeah, okay, I'll go with that one. And we'll move on to the next question.
Yes.
This is kind of a tedious link to the last bit we chatted about. It's only tedious because Magnus was mentioned. Now, Magnus is someone who kicks out a ridiculously overpowered version of, I say overpowered, a ridiculously strong version of Smite. I'm reluctant to use the word overpowered at the moment in this edition until everybody's got a codex. Okay. I don't think you can call anything that overpowered, perhaps with the exception of Primarchs, until everybody's got a codex and you can see where the game sits. Once all the codexes are out and everybody's got their own individual rules and you see where the game sits, then you can go, actually, that unit's undercosted, that's overcosted. You have some semblance of balance then because you've got something to compare it to. Or if we've currently got 5 codexes and no one else has got any, I don't think you can call things overpowered. However, talking about Magnus and his ability to cast Smite, Smite was the next thing I wanted to kind of talk about. And it's not directly Smite, it's just what Smite does. So most of you who are watching this will watch this because you already know the hobby, you already know the game, you know 8th edition. And in 8th edition we were introduced to a brand new mechanic called Mortal Wounds. Yep. Mortal Wounds was something that I think we first saw in Age of Sigmar, I think. Or I don't know if it was called the same thing, but something very similar at least.
Apparently it has it.
And I question whether Mortal Wounds is a good or a bad thing. In 7th edition there was a lot of whinging and complaining about D-based weapons. D-based weapons were complained about purely because you got no save, there was no way of stopping them. Yeah. And yet Mortal Wounds seems to be an accepted mechanic, and yet arguably it's the same principle. So do you think do you think Mortal Wounds are positive or negative for 8th edition? Because I think I sit on the fence of kind of both, which is funny that I just ripped you for the last question for giving me a yes and no, and yet for my own question I'm giving it a yes and a no.
Yes.
You think they're definitely positive?
Yes.
And there's no negative to them?
Well, everything's on a curve, right?
Yeah.
So here are some exceptions at this end of the curve where there are some negatives, but where is the even distribution on that curve? I'd say most of it is in the positive.
I think I'd probably agree until you hit those lists you're talking about, and you've got 18 units that can spam smite and stuff like that.
Well, it's Mortal Wounds.
I like that you're getting. This is what I want.
I don't want to keep throwing things back to tournament players, but in the tournament scene, Mortal Wound mechanic and Brimstone horrors and all that sort of shenanigans can be seen to be a problem. Yeah. But there is a way to counter them. If you go to Tabletop Tactics and watch Lawrence's previous review of the No Retreat 5 tournament with SM Battle Reports, he brought a Dark Eldar Drukhari list, basic Drukhari. And no one in the community right now is saying Drukhari are broken or Drukhari are top of the tree or Drukhari can smash.
Probably quite the opposite.
And he won 4 out of 5 of his games and drew the last one, and twice he went up against Tzeentch Mortal Wound spamming lists.
Okay.
And he talks long and he tells you how to combat them. There's ways around. So what I want to say is Mortal Wound mechanic can be a problem to tournament players. There are ways around them if you're playing tournaments and things like that. Throw up your scouts, throw up your noblins, throw up whatever. Let them smite, because smite only hits the closest thing. In the overall normal game, for most people who don't bring, I mean, have you ever faced an army that's got smite everywhere? The ones that I have are basically Grey Knights going smite, and doing 1 damage, 1 damage, 1 damage, 1 damage, and it's debilitating and it's nasty and it's da-da-da, but is it broken? Does it ruin the game? No, I don't think so.
No, and
I like it.
I would agree. On the whole, there are those odd lists out there you will find, and you are right. I know you say you don't want to keep going back to it, but you are right. It is tournament scene type lists, and you'll find people that will be able to spam Mortal Wound. It doesn't even have to be smite; just be able to spam Mortal Wound somehow. And there was a big commotion when the Death Card Codex dropped about their access to Mortal Wounds.
Yeah.
If you read the Codex and if you read the rules and the way that they dish out their Mortal Wounds, I think it's far from broken.
No, there's a couple.
Not only is it a few, but you have to be within a certain range of them anyway to get.
And then you need 4.
Yeah, you can't chuck it across the table.
Yeah.
I think on the whole, Mortal Wounds are a very positive change. I know I've played some people when I've chucked out a Tzeentch base list that has a lot of smite, just because you do, because it's Tzeentch. And I've taken a unit off that you would, Araman in his smite, for example, along with another Exalted Sorcerer, and you remove something that in previous editions they wouldn't have been able to harm, just wouldn't have been able to.
Yeah.
And then when you look at that, you kind of think maybe it's not quite right. But I think on the whole, the balance of Mortal Wounds is good.
Yeah, I mean, I played a thing where it was Space Marines versus Grey Knights, and I had my Hammernator's with hammers and shields, right? 3 up and vulnerable save,
yes.
Save, brilliant. And against Grey Knights, and there was unit after unit after unit after unit that did smite. So my 3 up and vulnerable save, I might as well not have brought it.
Yeah, exactly.
And that 10-man unit got whittled down to 6 men pretty quickly because he just targeted it with Mortal Wounds. Did I think that was wrong and stupid? No, I thought, wow, this is cool. This is good. I'm going to have to adapt and overcome.
Yeah, I suppose you can't just chuck it at anything now.
Yeah.
Because there's a possibility that invulnerable save will be ignored. I know it looked a bit funny then.
I know, it's because the wife.
Yeah.
I think we should. That's enough of Mortal Wounds. Let's find out what she wants.
I think he just wants to be involved.
Yeah. Cat. Cat.
Okay. So the last question I've got, which is for us, came from a friend of mine who is quite the Winters fanboy.
Is he?
Yeah.
He's got problems.
He is literally the reason as to why I watch your channel.
Oh, okay.
He said to me, I started a year and a half, 2 years ago, I think, roughly, started watching battle reports on YouTube. It was something that was quite new to me, something I hadn't done before. But I wasn't getting my fix from playing the hobby myself. I was working shifts in London, and I just didn't have the time to play. So I started to get my fix from YouTube, and he said to me, "Have you watched this guy Winters?" And I went, "Funny this now, I'm sat here with you." I went, "Who?" not rudely, obviously.
Yeah.
He said that, so I checked the stuff out. I think it was just before the point where you started showing dice rolling. I think it was just before
Okay.
then, so it's quite a while ago now. So he's a massive, massive fan of the channel.
Okay.
And I asked him specifically for a question because I know how much he worships you. That's the word I'm going to use. He might get really embarrassed now.
He's got issues.
He wants to come and say hello one day when we film, and I said no.
Has he got an army?
Is it painted? No. Has he got an army? Yeah.
Okay.
But
He needs to paint it.
well,
Come up.
even if he just comes and watches us and sits there in the corner with his
And makes tea. He can come up and make tea.
He does. Yeah, he makes good tea. He makes good food as well.
Right, okay.
Anyway, so he asked us quite a specific question, which when he asked me, I thought actually I think it's a really interesting question. So in 7th edition, every army had a codex, and on top of that codex, we tended to find there was lots of other extra additional books.
Yeah.
So for each army, there was a massive amount of flavour that was built to fit that army's narrative in formations and detachments and relics and rules, etc., etc., etc.
Okay.
In 8th edition, his concern is, and the question, near enough word for word, that he got me to write down was, are they taking away individuality of armies with the standardisation of codexes? So now every single codex is kind of in the same format. Units, some special rules depending on what type of faction within that faction, so if you've got a chapter or a legion or whatever, and then you have relics and stratagems, and that's about it. And actually, when you map, for example, the Chaos book to the Marine book, a lot of those chapter tactics and stratagems are also pretty much the same. The word, near enough word for word the same, just call something different. And he's concerned mildly in 8th edition that some armies are losing their individual flavour.
I don't get it. What do you mean? Do you think they're losing flavour?
I think to a point they are.
What armies? Riptide Wings.
No, that's clearly not
They're
what
losing
about.
flavour.
No, I think
So
it's on about.
we've got Forge World Dogmas and Space and Imperial Guard regimental stuff, and we're going to have Eldar Craft World specific rules and Tyranid Hive Fleet specific rules for the first time ever.
Yeah, I think the big change that he's talking about is this difference now with detachments and formations. So obviously everyone has the access to the same detachments,
Right.
and that's all you've got,
Yeah.
no matter who you are.
Yeah.
So
Good.
so now you've got those detachments with no additional rules. Are we seeing a standardisation and therefore a loss of identity for each army, or do we in fact just have it but in a different way? I think perhaps we've got it but in a different way, like you've just said. I think if you don't look at the detachments and you just accept the fact that that's the way you structure your army, and these are the rules that you then map on top of, like your Forge World Dogmas and your Craft Worlds and that sort of stuff. I think potentially we've still got that individuality. I think you just have to look at it slightly differently.
Okay.
So I'm assuming you're then set with, nope, there's no individuality lost, in fact it's better than it ever was. It's not a great discussion.
I'm not just disagreeing with everything you say. I think detachments and formations that were specific to certain books were a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
I think they lasted for an edition, and I think the fact that they're not here anymore is an acknowledgement from the company that makes this game that they were a mistake.
Yeah, I agree.
I did used to play tournaments. The last tournaments I played in was in 5th edition, and back then there was one force organisation type, which was 1 HQ, 2 troops, and up to 3 in any other slot, and up to 6 troops, and that was it. There was nothing else.
A simpler time.
And there was people moaning them about leaf blowers and orc bikers, and there was people because there's always going to be a particular list that is the strongest, and the flavour and the narrative and the uniqueness of certain armies shone through then. There was a mistake happened around 6th, 7th edition, and it's gone now, and now we've got this new detachments that we're following, going back to what it should have been all along, and the codexes are reintroducing some narrative to the game. I think it's a good thing. I think we're in a good place.
I think we are as well, and I think there's controversy. He's a very good friend of mine. Controversy. I think actually, if anything, there's more individuality that's coming into the game now. And don't get me wrong. I mean, we've all watched your review of the Cult Mech Codex or the Ad Mech Codex.
Okay.
And I do think that there are certain codexes and certain aspects of certain codexes where I think they've missed the ballpark just about.
I didn't say that was a bad book.
No,
I said that it was an improvement on what came before, and if you bring robots and if you bring dune crawlers, you can have some really, really strong builds in there.
Yeah.
It was just such a massively missed opportunity.
I agree.
Because of the narrative. It's just another army. They could have done it. Imagine if there,
this is the whole point of what we're talking about with it.
Imagine if there was a bunch of. Imagine if one of the Forge World dogmas were all your troops become fearless. mind scrubbed, but you've got -2 to your ballistic skill. So that means servitors are hitting on 6s, your rangers, your vanguards hitting on 5s, mind scrubbed. You know that Lucius doctrine that allows you to deep strike a couple of units, and you can buy one stratagem and deep strike something in, but because it's before the game begins, you can spend all your stratagems and deep strike 8 things in.
Yeah.
Why didn't they just say, teleportarium, you can deep strike as much chisel as you want, or 50% of your army as you want to, but here's the negative. They could have, there's different ways they could have structured that book. Metallica are known for their armour. So you've got a 6-up. There's different ways they could have structured some of the... I'm not asking for superpowered dogma, so fearless but hitting on 5s and 6s isn't too stupid pattern.
No, I know that, yeah.
There's different ways they could have structured that book which would have made it more unique. This is the first time dogmas are out there in the world. What does this Forge World really do? And the narrative in the book beforehand is just garbage.
Yeah, it's not great. But I think that's quite a key point that you just mentioned anyway.
They're just
I think we need to remember this is the first time dogmas have existed.
Yeah.
Obviously, in the previous edition of the codexes, codices, what you want to call them, Marines had the chapter tactics, Chaos had their legions towards the end, just about, and that was about it.
You know Talon in the Astra Militarum book have got more manoeuvrability and speed than the White Scars.
Oh wow.
Because White Scars can't outflank anymore, right?
Yeah.
They've got hit and run, essentially. They can fall
So
back.
a horse is now better than a bike?
Well, you can buy stratagems for Talon which allow you to outflank like a Lehman Russ tank regiment on the out. You can outflank.
Yeah.
And you can't do that with...
Did you mention that in your codex review as well?
And then they move and shoot and shoot and move. So they've got more manoeuvrability than White Scars.
That's odd.
And their guard.
Yeah, on horses.
But I like the fact that Talon are so uniquely different to Cadian, which is stay still and they shoot better. They can get orders and they can shoot better. That is a completely different way of building a guard list.
Yeah, yeah. And with a few of the codexes, I think when you look at the different chapters and the different regiments and the different Forge Worlds, they've kind of got it about right. It's then when you map it to a different codex and you go, well, no, hang on a minute, that's not... Maybe there's a slight imbalance. Again, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Once all the codexes are out, we'll have a better idea as to where everything sits. I knew that mentioning the Eclipse Mechanicus Codex would get you off on one.
Don't get me started.
And I'm probably about to use my Cult Mech against him in a minute, just because I can. I think you'll bring in Primaris stuff.
I've gone against Cult Mech once in my life.
Yeah, twice now.
So that's why I want to play it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I have used robots. I haven't used Dune Cores. Interesting how you think there's much more narrative, and yet on certain books they've missed the opportunity, arguably.
Okay, so the Forge World dogmas are the Forge World dogmas having some dogma better than having none at all?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
Was it written with the idea? So they came. I think whoever sat down and wrote those rules are like, oh, we'll put a little bit here, put a little bit here, put a little bit here. By reading the book, taking the book as a whole, and reading the narrative beforehand, they don't... See, the Adeptus Mechanicus is a complex feudal system. It is Byzantine in its structure. You know how the Imperium has the Guard, the Sisters, the this, the that, and the Adeptus Ministorum just goes... There's so many different parts of the Imperium.
Yeah.
It's a massive machine that breaks and collapses in on itself.
Mm-hmm.
The Mechanicum is exactly like that. The Myrmidons hate the Scitari. There's internal conflict and different barons and different lords and different... Imagine feudal Europe. That's the Mechanicum. And they miss that in the narrative. They don't mention it at all. The other main myth... So that's as key as Guard having orders, or as key as Marines having no fear. That should be in there. The second thing that should be in there is they're absolute zealots. They believe that all technology exists, all knowledge exists. Everything we ever need to know is known. And Google knows it, and Apple knows it, and Siri knows it. And all they have to do is ask the machine, hello Google, what do you do? Hi, I'm a bolt gun. It's all out there, the spirits in the machines are out there, and they just need to find them.
Yeah.
Therefore, tinkering or playing with any kind of technology is a crime. It's against God himself, because God himself is Siri, is Google, is the power in the machine, the mind in the machine. They should not touch it. It's touching the testicles of God. And that zealotry is not in that open narrative part of the book. So bear in mind that that's not in the book. I suspect, top-down view of the whole codex, I suspect that whoever wrote it didn't have a clue what they were writing about. So, is it better? Is the AdMech Codex good? Yes, it's a good book. Is it better than the Index? Yes, it is. Are there some power builds in there? Oh yeah. The AdMech can be a very, very powerful force. Yes. What could it have been? It could have
that's
been.
The difference.
It could have mentioned the two tenets of the Adeptus Mechanicus as their zealotry and their structure, and with that in mind, the dogmas should have echoed that. There should have been something in there that was absolutely zealotry, and one dogma, one Forge World should have been completely, they should have been miles apart, like the Cadians versus the Talons. They should have been, I can feel my heart rate.
Yeah, we're going to knock it on the head there, because we've got a battle report to film and I'm very excited about it, and the camera's about to die. So we're going to wrap this one up as part 2. And I'm sure
I'm going to get flamed for that anyway. He's a fanboy. Another Mechanicum fanboy.
In the
you
near
should see the
future,
hate in that video.
we will do a 3rd episode and hopefully a 4th.
I'm not a Mechanicum fan.
And I'll keep
everything
bringing
fanboy.
in biscuits.
I like narrative.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to kill it now. Right, when he's quite done smashing up his Mechanicus models and his codex and burning the pages, he'll come and sit back down and he'll
I nearly sold them, you know.
I know you did, you told me about that. I almost did the same, based on your review alone, and then I got the book myself and went,
it's a better army. It's a better army.
So,
that's not even talking about transport.
We're going to wrap this one up, because I think we've got plenty of footage for a couple of videos. I've really, really enjoyed it. I'm hoping he'll have me back to talk more hobby, because I think it's been great fun.
I've liked this.
Yeah, and I'm sure people can keep giving it. I mean, I'm sure even if people don't, we'll come up with our own topics. So this is the end of part 2 of what is initially a 2-part series. I'm hoping, like I've said already numerous times, to do a 3rd and 4th and more, because I like talking hobby, and who better to talk with than a man like this who just knows so much about this hobby and loves it so much.
You know what, it suddenly occurs to me that all you had to do was sit down about an hour ago and say, so Winters, what do you think of the Codex?
Honestly, it's
that would have been
a long time just holding that back, going, I want to ask him because I know it's going to go on camera. The last thing I was going to do was ask one final little question, which is a quick one. It's not for debate or discussion, just a quick question to wrap up the series so far. And that is...
So this has been fun.
I love it, yeah. So if you had to, in one single entity, describe your most favourite change in 8th edition...
Oh, you're asking me?
Yeah, not me.
Most favourite change in 8th edition. So simplicity. Let's boil that all the way down. The movement phase. It's just very quick. Very simple. Now, beforehand, you used to roll dice and take morale and all sorts of stuff, and run in the shooting phase, or move in the assault phase. Because Eldar moved in the movement phase, moved in the shooting phase, then moved in the assault phase. Because you know Eldar. Now everything only moves in the movement phase, unless there are a few things that move in other phases now.
Well, the psychic phase perhaps is about it.
Yeah.
Things like warp time.
Yeah. So the movement phase. My favourite thing about 8th edition is the movement phase.
You heard it here first. So this next battle report, you'll probably just watch him moving models around. That's all he's bothered about, is the movement phase.
That's really basic.
I've really enjoyed being here, talking hobby with you. I hope to do it many more times. I hope you've enjoyed sitting here talking hobby.
I know what it is.
Oh, go on, there's another one, is there?
Yeah, the Reaver Titan's got 60 wounds and a 3-up vulnerable save.
Don't ever bring that.
That's my favourite thing in 8th edition.
So yeah, as I was saying,
mean.
I hope we can do this in the future some more times. I'm going to go over now and film a battle report. As I've said already in the last video, and I've probably said it in this one, if you haven't already, go over and subscribe to Winters' channel. Go over and pay for money, give him money to pay for things on Patreon, support me. Did you say $2 a month or something?
Yeah,
it's nothing.
If you want it to
nothing
grow.
at all, and it gives him a chance at growing more forces, more armies, more scenery, more terrain, more boards, etc. Like I said, I'm sat in this hobby room and there is already a wash of stuff. And he kicks out some wonderful, wonderful videos.
It's mainly scenery.
And one thing I do love about Winters' channel is that he's not afraid to go hard down the narrative route rather than the match play crunch route, and I love that because I don't see enough narrative games on YouTube at the moment. So I think that's wonderful. So head on over and subscribe. Most of you have probably come over from his channel to watch this anyway. In which case, keep supporting him and make sure you're paying him money because it is great stuff. that's it then. We're going to wrap this up. We've got one more little video to do for our channel, which I'm sure we'll do for his channel as well, because I've got something to present to him.
Have you?
Yeah. And then that'll be it from us. And I'll try and kick some more videos out soon. I've got a Zinch list one I want to do and some other bits and pieces. I'm sure you'll sit and watch them even if no one else does.
Yeah, I watch your stuff. I'm one of the 3.
Yeah, you, my mum, and some random stalker. So thanks very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave any comments in the comments below. Let us know if there's stuff you want us to talk about, other questions you've got for us, or your opinions on what we've discussed so far. Yeah. Hit like, hit subscribe, keep watching the channel. And
I'm really sorry if I insulted other people, because I realise that I can get salty. See, this is the other thing. Most people don't see the saltiness. That Admech Codex, that came out a little bit, and I know I probably
do you know, honestly,
peed off a few people.
I really like seeing the saltiness, because saltiness normally comes from passion. Really?
Yeah, I suppose, yeah.
Saltiness tends to come from passion, and if people are passionate about this hobby, that's what I want to watch, that's what I'm interested in.
I'm hesitant, because I'm aware of how much opinion is there, because I'm aware of how much opinion... Anyway, I'll shut up.
Yeah. I'm not looking at my watch to shut you up, just because I don't want the camera to turn off when we're catching all this good stuff.
Can we go and get a cup of tea now?
We can get another... This man is a tea drinking machine. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
Happy wargaming. Yeah, I don't know if I should have said that on camera, but fuck it, it's out there, isn't it? I should have talked about locking kids in dungeons.
No.
Biscuit.
Just, yeah. I'll let you know when this video goes live, and then you can make sure that if someone knocks your door you don't answer it, because they might be looking for people.